A Psalm of Life by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. What the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. Tell me not, in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Heart within and God o'erhead. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing o'er life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait.
Living with Purpose, a commentary on Longfellow's A Psalm of Life. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's A Psalm of Life, 1838, is one of the most enduring poems of the 19th century, a work that has inspired generations with its call to purposeful living. Subtitled What the Heart of the Young Man Said to the Psalmist. It frames itself as a spirited rebuttal to the fatalistic wisdom of Scripture, especially the melancholy tone of Ecclesiastes. Instead of resignation, Longfellow proclaims a vision of courage, faith, and action. Personal and historical context. The poem's urgency is best understood in light of Longfellow's personal grief. He wrote it after the death of his first wife, Mary Potter. During a time of profound sorrow, his insistence that life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal was not a simple platitude, but a deeply personal act of resilience. In voicing hope and resolve, he rejected despair in the most intimate sense. At the same time, the poem resonated with broader cultural currents. It captured the moralistic optimism of the Victorian era, and echoed themes of American transcendentalism, which emphasized self-reliance, moral striving, and the spiritual significance of the individual. Its popularity in the 19th century lay not only in its message, but also in its timing. It spoke to an age hungry for reassurance that human effort mattered in the face of mortality. The call to action. Central to the poem is the insistence that life must not be wasted in passivity. Longfellow dismisses both idle pleasure and paralyzing sorrow as unworthy ends. Instead, he urges purposeful striving. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act, that each tomorrow find us farther than today. This theme is reinforced by the poem's vigorous form, written in trochaic tetrameter with its driving, marching rhythm. The meter itself enacts the forward motion it advocates. The verse propels the reader onward, creating the sense of continual striving that defines the poem's philosophy. Time, mortality, and heroism. Longfellow acknowledges the brevity of life. Art is long, and time is fleeting. The heartbeat, likened to muffled funeral drums, reminds us of mortality. But this awareness does not invite despair. Instead, it becomes a summons to courage. Be not like dumb, driven cattle. Be a hero in the strife. The simplicity of the imagery makes the message immediately accessible. The contrast between passive cattle and heroic strivers turns philosophy into picture. A hallmark of the poem's enduring appeal. Living in the present. One of the poem's most quoted passages exhorts readers to live actively in the moment. Trust no future, howe'er pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present. Heart within and God o'erhead. These lines distill both practical wisdom and spiritual faith. Longfellow cautions against nostalgia and dreamy anticipation, insisting that only present action, animated by conscience and faith, gives life its worth. Legacy and footprints. The poem closes with a metaphor that has made it immortal. Footprints on the sands of time. The idea that one's actions can leave behind moral traces that guide and encourage others captures the essence of the poem's legacy. Our lives, however brief, can inspire future generations, especially those who feel shipwrecked or despairing. The final injunction, learn to labor and to wait, offers a balance to the poem's earlier urgency. Longfellow's vision of life is not about instant triumph, but about steady striving, patience, and faith. That enduring effort bears fruit in ways we may never see. Conclusion. A Psalm of Life is more than a motivational poem. It is both an elegy for despair and a hymn to human resilience. Its rhythm, imagery, and directness gave it wide appeal in the 19th century, making it a cultural touchstone. Today, its message remains fresh. That life, though fleeting, gains meaning through purposeful action, courage, and faith. Longfellow's youthful speaker confronts the inevitability of death, not with resignation but with resolve. In doing so, he offers us a path to live earnestly, to leave behind footprints that encourage others, and to labor and wait with patience and hope. In an age often preoccupied with uncertainty, his words still march forward with the same trochaic beat, urging us to live fully in the present while shaping a legacy for the future.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Mournful. Definition: having a feeling or appearance of deep sadness or sorrow. It often describes something that expresses grief. Example: the mournful sound of the violin filled the room with quiet sadness. 2. Numbers, in poetic context. Definition: in Older English, numbers can refer to verses or lines of poetry. Here it means songs or poems, often with a serious or solemn tone. Example: the poet spoke in gentle numbers that touched the hearts of his listeners. 3. Slumber. Definition: a poetic word meaning sleep, often suggesting a peaceful or inactive state. Example: the village lay in deep slumber under the soft glow of the moon. 4. Dust thou art, to dust returnest. Definition: a line from the Bible, meaning you are made of dust, and you will return to dust, reminding people of human mortality and the body's return to the earth after death. Example: the phrase dust thou art, to dust returnest, reflects the belief that life on earth is temporary. 5. Stout. Definition: strong, brave, or determined. It can also mean physically sturdy, but in this poem, it refers to inner courage. Example: she had a stout heart that never gave in to fear. 6. Muffled. Definition: softened or made quieter, often as if covered or wrapped. Example: a muffled drumbeat echoed slowly across the battlefield. 7. Bivouac. Definition: a temporary camp, often used by soldiers. In the poem, it is a metaphor for life, as a brief, temporary stop in a larger journey. Example: the soldiers rested in a small bivouac before the next day's march. 8. Strife. Definition: hard struggle, conflict, or fight, often involving great effort or difficulty. Example: even in times of strife, she stood firm and hopeful. 9. Overhead. Definition: a poetic contraction of overhead, meaning above one's head or in the sky. Example: the stars shone brightly overhead as the travelers walked through the night. 10. Sublime. Definition: so beautiful, grand, or excellent that it inspires great admiration or awe. Example: the sunset over the mountains was so sublime that everyone fell silent. 11. Sailing o'er life's solemn main. Definition: a poetic way of saying sailing over the serious ocean of life. Or means over, and main here means the open sea. It suggests the journey of life through its challenges. Example: the poet compares human life to a sailor, sailing o'er life's solemn main, facing storms and unknown waters. 12. Forlorn. Definition: feeling sad, lonely, and abandoned. It often describes someone in a hopeless or helpless situation. Example: the forlorn child stood alone at the edge of the empty playground.
Comprehension questions. 1. Who wrote A Psalm of Life, and when was it first published? Answer: Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote the poem, and it was first published in 1838. 2. What is the subtitle of the poem, and why is it significant? Answer: the subtitle is what the heart of the young man said to the psalmist. It frames the poem as a spirited response to the fatalistic wisdom of Scripture, such as Ecclesiastes, setting up its rejection of despair. 3. What personal event in Longfellow's life influenced the writing of the poem? Answer: the death of his first wife, Mary Potter, during his early years of marriage deeply influenced Longfellow, giving the poem's rejection of pessimism greater poignancy. 4. What main idea does Longfellow reject in the opening stanza? Answer: he rejects the notion that life is meaningless or an empty dream, and insists that life has real purpose and eternal significance. 5. What does the line "life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal" mean? Answer: it affirms that life has intrinsic meaning and purpose beyond death. Human existence is not merely a path to the grave. 6. According to the poem, what is the true purpose of life? Answer: not pleasure or sorrow, but action and progress, so that each day we advance further than the day before. 7. How does the poem's meter reinforce its message? Answer: written in trochaic tetrameter, the driving, marching rhythm mirrors the poem's call to action and forward movement. 8. What image does Longfellow use to symbolize the brevity of life? Answer: he compares the heartbeat to muffled drums, beating funeral marches toward the grave. 9. How does Longfellow urge readers to respond to the shortness of life? Answer: by living courageously and purposefully, refusing passivity, and striving to be heroes in the strife. 10. What is meant by "be not like dumb, driven cattle, be a hero in the strife"? Answer: it warns against mindless conformity, and urges people to face life's struggles with courage and individuality. 11. What advice does the poem give about the past and the future? Answer: it advises not to dwell on the past or rely on the future, but to act in the living present, guided by conscience and faith in God. 12. What role does faith play in the poem? Answer: faith is a guiding force, summed up in the line "heart within, and God overhead." It provides strength and direction for purposeful living. 13. What metaphor does Longfellow use for leaving a legacy? Answer: he speaks of leaving footprints on the sands of time, symbolizing the lasting influence of one's deeds. 14. Who might benefit from these footprints? Answer: future generations, especially those who are forlorn and shipwrecked, may take encouragement from the examples of noble lives. 15. What does the phrase "art is long, and time is fleeting" mean in context? Answer: human life is short, but art, knowledge, and noble deeds outlast individual lifespans, emphasizing the urgency to act. 16. How does the poem balance urgency with patience in its closing lines? Answer: it urges constant striving, still achieving, still pursuing, but concludes with the wisdom to learn to labor and to wait, emphasizing persistence and patience. 17. Why was the poem especially popular in the 19th century? Answer: it reflected the optimistic, moralistic spirit of the Victorian age and the ideals of American transcendentalism, offering reassurance that human effort mattered. 18. What tone does the poem strike overall? Answer: the tone is uplifting, exhortative, and motivational, intended to inspire courage and purposeful living. 19. How does Longfellow contrast passive and active approaches to life? Answer: he contrasts dumb, driven cattle, passive, aimless existence, with heroes in the strife, active, courageous engagement with life. 20. What final lesson does the poem leave the reader with? Answer: that true greatness lies in striving with courage, leaving behind a legacy of inspiration, and practicing patience, laboring and waiting with faith.